to another live stream. All right. Yes, we're back on the radio channel now. Ooh, now we can talk about radio. Always good to talk about radio. But we're going to talk a little storm preparedness along the way tonight. I thought we'd cover two birds, one stone. How's that? All right. Anyway, of course, for those that are in the know, for those that watch the channel, we had I had the 830 on, the RT 830. Of course, it didn't work. Malfunctioned right away. So we had to send it back. Got that taken care of. I did get a replacement radio. It is not the 830. I got a whole different radio as a replacement, a different brand and everything. So we're going to look at that tomorrow. Of course, yesterday we looked at the RT 493. And so that's where we are there. So the other day we talked about the UV5R and whether or not it's still relevant. And I think it is. I think it has its place. Of course, some people may disagree with that. But I do think that the UV5R still has a place when it comes to all this. It comes to radio. Even the old model does, not just the newer models. But I do think it has a good place and all that. So that's the one thing we talked about the other day. Now, of course, we're going to talk about another radio tonight, and we're going to talk about a couple other things along the way. Okay, there we go. Now we're all good and set here, I think. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about another radio. Ooh, what radio? Anybody know? Well, if you read the description, you know the radio. Of course, you might not recognize it. That's an interesting thing there, too. You may not. You're like, what? What is that? Well, we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But, with storm season coming up, and we are getting into storm season, I've been looking at the forecast, and they're talking about storms this day and storms that day. I believe there's a chance of... I was watching a weather thing this morning, and they completely skipped on Thursday, so I don't know what's going to happen Thursday. They jumped from Wednesday to Friday. But tomorrow, I believe there's a chance of tornadoes all over the area. So that's going to be an interesting thing there. Never know, we might all get sucked up and blown away before tomorrow's stream. Who knows? But we'll find out. All right, so tonight, of course, we're going to be talking a little about this guy while we talk about storm prep. Let's put him on the table here, on the desk, whatever. And that is the Baofeng GT3WP. And why do I have it? Why do I need it? Why did I buy it? Well, if you recognize the design, it's very similar to the UV9G, which I just happen to have the GT3WP that I use for scanning different frequencies. This isn't one I use for talking on; it's one I use for scanning. But there's a reason I have it. And this goes back. This goes into my whole storm preparedness. So I got this radio. It was the second radio I bought. Well, technically the third, if you want to be... No, take that back. It's actually technically would have been the fourth radio I bought. I say second, but then it's not exactly that because I think I bought... I bought two UV5Rs, then I bought an 82, and then I think I bought two of these. Something like that. In one of those orders, who knows which order it really was? I'd have to look and see. The point is that I bought it because of stormy weather. The thing is, with a storm, you need to be prepared. And having the UV5R is great and everything, but it is not a waterproof radio, and that is completely why I bought this one. It was at a really good price point at the time, and it is waterproof. And that's why I like it. That's the only reason I bought it, because it's a waterproof radio. It completely seals with a screw here. I mean, it's got its own independent, connection cable there. You can see the side there. You got to take the cover off. You got to unscrew the cover, take it off, put it back on. So it's all waterproof. This thing is supposed to be completely waterproof. It doesn't have any other openings on it, and it works real well. This is the radio I grab when when it's stormy and I think I have to go outside for something, but I still want to be able to hear what I'm listening to. This is the radio to grab because I know this radio, A, didn't cost me a lot, and B, it's waterproof. Says so right there on the bottom. WP, waterproof. But, I've got other radios that are IP67 rated now, but I wouldn't necessarily want to take them out in the rain because they cost more money, and maybe they have a charge port or something that's not covered, and you have to take that into consideration as you go. All right, but this is a ham radio, unlocked radio. Actually, technically, it's an unlocked radio. It's not, technically, it's not on any frequency. It's just an unlocked radio. I use it for, like I said, listening to local frequencies and stuff that during a storm, or I put it on the weather channel, and just leave it sitting. That way we have one on the weather, or whatever. But it's a handy radio to have. It's good. It's got its ups. It's got its downs. The big up, of course, is the waterproof. The down is there's two downs, really, I think, on it. One is there's no VFO or VFO memory button, so you can't switch. So switching memory to VFO you can't do it by pushing a button. This works like the UV82, which is you have to hold the menu button down and then turn it on to switch. So right now I know it's in frequency. If I held down the menu and turned it on, it'd go to channel, and vice versa. So you have to do that to change from memory to frequency. Right now I know I have it in frequency mode, but that's one of the big cons. The other big drawback, and this is just something I don't like on any radio, and it's this right here. You can see what that is. It's the flashlight. I do not see the purpose to a flashlight on a radio. Now, many people may like the flashlight, but I don't like the flashlight. Now, I know we're talking about storm preparedness, having a flashlight's handy and everything, but one, I don't remember which button ever turns on the flashlight on a radio. I never remember it. I prefer to disable it if I can. If there's a way to do it, I'll figure it out because I don't need that flashlight. And I don't like to use it. I'll show you. I keep a flashlight always right behind me. This is one that I have that is just a standard flashlight. It's a good barrel flashlight. Completely rechargeable. It's got a nice handle on it. I like this. I've got a good one in the other room that works as an external battery pack too. The thing is, I've got flashlights. Everybody has a regular flashlight. We don't need you don't need a flashlight in a radio. If you took out the flashlight and replaced all of the flashlights on radios with channel knobs, it would be great. It really would. But a lot of radios do have a flashlight. I just don't see the purpose to them. I think it's pointless. Now, talking about, of course, this is a radio that's good if you want to program in emergency frequencies to listen to, or to have in there, even to have programmed in there in the event that you may need to transmit on them if you were trapped or something did happen. It's a good radio for that, being that it's waterproof. That's pretty much what mine is set up for. Mine's set up so that if I were trapped under debris or something, and I don't have my phone or whatever, because I'm notorious about not having a phone in my pocket, because I just don't care to have a phone in my pocket all the time. I usually have a radio. And when it's stormy, I always grab one of these and put it in my pocket or put it on a case or whatever. And this one here, if something did happen, I could reach out to somebody for help. Now, that's one of those things that you want to think about. Think about being prepared. And of course, I have the NOAA weather stations programmed in it. so that I know where they are. And that's the thing is that a lot of newer radios, they do have the upside of having the NOAA weather button, so you can just push the button and go straight to the weather. I've got a new radio here that's supposed to have that. I haven't figured out if it does or doesn't. I didn't see anything in the menu or on the online programming menu, but I haven't read the whole book yet, so I guess we'll figure that out later. I'm just going to look here and see if I see it real quick. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay. Yes, it does have the weather function. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it does have the weather station. It told me how to turn it on just now. Isn't that nice? Okay. Well, I already figured out the answer to that. But this radio, of course, does not have no weather radio programmed in it. So I programmed in the frequencies, and I started them at 120, around 120 in the memory. That way I would know exactly where they were. That's the thing is, put things in a memory order so you know exactly what number is what. Know which number you have your emergency services on and what frequency the weather's on. Know these things. Know what memory channel you have them in. That way you can just punch it in as you go. And I generally set up all my radios along the same lines. You ever take a few modifications just so that I am able to do that, and go through and do that. Not every radio I have has the same frequencies in it, of course, but this one is programmed for emergency use, so it's set up a little different. And I know that I'll be probably using it the next few days, or at least listening to it, because of the weather. Because the weather's going to be a little hairy the next few days. That's just one of those things. But have a radio. The point to that is have a radio that is waterproof. It doesn't have to be this model per se, but if you use GMRS like I do, you could use the UV9G and still have your GMRS channels and have the other ones to listen to. If you are concerned about having a way to contact emergency services in an event, maybe having an unlocked radio like this one is a good idea, just so that you can have all your frequencies programmed in it. It's good for emergencies, and it's waterproof, so that if something happens, you've got a way to do stuff. Weight-wise, this has a pretty good weight to it and a pretty good feel to it. And comparatively, it's got a good feel and a good weight to it. Now, I'll tell you one thing I don't like is the belt clip on these, and that's why I don't use it. It's a single circle that screws in there, that screws on, and then the belt clip is a modular thing that slides on your belt, and you just clip this into it. Well, then it leaves it swinging, and it just swings back and forth. It just doesn't seem secure. It reminds me of some old cell phone cases and stuff from back in the early days of cell phones, and I was never a fan of those, so I'm definitely not a fan of that on the radio. So that's one thing. And I'm not big on belt clips on most of my radios anyway. I have a belt clip on 2 of them, I think. And the rest of them will fit in a case or a pocket. I'd rather just lock the keypad and stick it in my pocket than to have it wobbling around on a clip like that, like this one has. That's just my opinion on that. But you can always, some people have a different opinion on that. And y'all might like those old style phone holders, So it may take you back to those retro days, and you're thinking, "Ooh, yeah, it reminds me of when I had that old Nokia, and it swings around and everything." But I'm just not a fan of it. Of course, this is it's a good little radio to have with you. Now, another thing is that being prepared for a storm doesn't mean just having your radio and being able to turn it on and use it. I know a lot of people, "Ooh, hey, I've got the radio, there's a storm, I'm good to go." Are you really good to go? Because I don't think you are. And here's why I say that you're probably not as good to go as you think. So you have your radio, okay, and you can turn it on and go. Is your radio charged? Do you keep it charged? Did you make sure it was charged before the storm? Well, if you didn't, then you may not have a full battery. That could be a problem too. Now, I like to keep mine like these on the charger. That way, they're always charged. I take them off, all the time and mess with them, but I put them right back on the charger. That way, I have the full battery on this. Like I said, that's one of those things. Now, of course, this has a base station charger with it. It's not a USB-C charger. So you want to make sure it's charged ahead of time. Now, another thing I want to recommend here, and we're talking about just the storm preparedness stuff here. Another thing I want to recommend is when I say being prepared is also if your flashlights are rechargeable. Here's an idea. Make sure they're charged. You don't want to grab a flashlight when the power's out and have it go out 10 minutes later. You want to always have everything charged and ready to go. Also, I recommend that, especially this time of year, and if you don't have any, I don't know what's wrong with you, but, people sometimes are not prepared. And that's generators, solar generators. Now, I have several small, 300 watt, like 300 watt or whatever it is, solar generators. And each one of them, depending on why the power's out, depends on what it's used for. If it's a storm that knocks the power out, it's used for the essential items. Now, if we have a scheduled power outage and it's only going to be out for a few hours, generally I'll hook them up to the internet and the electronics. Keeps everything running that way. But in the event of a storm, I'm not concerned with keeping the internet running or other electronics. I want the generators there so that we can use things that are a necessity to charge up. Phones, if necessary, radios if they are out of power for some reason, which they shouldn't be. But anything that can be anything like that. Priorities, you think about, you got to prioritize what's important. Another thing I want to recommend is you don't know what's going to happen in a storm. Make sure you have some material on hand to patch a window with if that were to happen. I know there's a lot of things people go on these big lists, and you can find lists all over the internet of things you need to have with you. Have a go bag with this and a go bag with that. Okay, well, that's fine and well. But think about practical things, too, that people don't talk about. Maybe a couple of tarps in case you need them. Or maybe some heavy-duty cardboard or something in case you need to cover a window quickly. Make sure you have things that you can use in a pinch that may not be on anybody's list. So you got to go through and you make a list of, well, in this scenario, what would I do? In that scenario, what would I do? And all of that. Now, you should have a go bag and be ready to go in a moment's notice. That's true. But you also need to be able to be prepared in case you're not going anywhere, but something happens. One of the big issues, of course, always with storms is the power outage and being able to get communication, it's one of those things. I mean, I have, you can rely on your phone all you want. And most people do. Oh, I've got a phone. I'm good. I'm covered. You have one of these things. Okay, well, you're covered. But does that really mean that you're covered? Does it? Because in all reality, you're not going to be covered. Why is that not loaded? Okay. Anyway, in all reality, you're not going to be covered if you just with the phone. I've talked about this before, but my phone doesn't give me weather alerts most of the time. Occasionally, I get one nowadays, but for the longest time, I never got any weather alerts on it. So it's useless in a storm. I'm more likely to know what's going on with the weather from just radio traffic on a two-way radio, listening to emergency services and stuff, than I am getting an alert on the phone. So I don't rely on the phone. I prefer to rely on my I prefer to rely on my I prefer to rely on my radios and stuff like that. And I think it's better to rely on those. But and that's the thing is if the power's out for a long period of time, yeah, you're still going to have your cell phone for a while. But what if something takes out the cell tower? Oh, your local cell tower's out. Guess what? You're not going to be calling anybody. Local cell tower's out. You're not calling anybody. But um, you know, you've still got simplex on your radio. You may not have power. The repeater stations may not have power, but you're still going to have simplex and be able to contact somebody close by and relay and find out, of course, what's going on. And that's one of those things that you can do. Now, a lot of times, you may or may not, you may not want to do that, but at least having the radio, you're going to have a way of getting a message or at least finding out information without relying on a cell phone tower or cell phone services. That's one of those things. I prefer my two-way radios over the cell phone anyway. But even if you don't have, even if you're not going to be talking to somebody on the radio, the phone, it's not always going to tell you what's going on. At least you can hit the button and go to listen to the weather, which will be transmitting, all the time. It's always transmitting on the weather frequencies. Now, I know there are those that go with there's an app on the phone. Well, yeah, there's an app for everything. It doesn't mean that it's useful. I'm not a big fan of apps and all that either. So everybody wants to make a reason why the phone is better. I don't think the phone is better. I think it's become a way to disconnect us. At least, and that's why I stick with the radio. I like the radio better. But that's just my opinion on it. Now in a storm, radio is going to be your better bet. It's going to be the better choice of the two. Now, here's the thing, although. So take, for instance, you're trapped under debris, okay? Yeah, you've got your phone, okay? But what are you going to do? You're going to call somebody, right? Okay, well, that's good until the phone dies. But even if you call somebody, how are you going to tell them exactly where you are? You may not know exactly where you are, or what's on top of you, or you may not even be able to speak. Maybe you've got a problem and you can't talk. Well, how are you going to communicate on the phone? Send a text message? Okay, that's a problem. Maybe you can't reach your phone, get your phone up to see it to type in a text message. This isn't, these touchscreen phones are not like the old keypads that would have been on a phone. So you can't just, know which keys to type in by memory to type in a message. It's not going to work on a phone. So let's say, what do? You're trapped under things. Your phone is not going to be your friend. Your radio is your friend because you have, unless you disable it, you have the orange button. You just hold it down and it sets off the alarm tone, a high-pitched sound. Okay, well, now you've got a loud alarm going off that people are going to hear. Not to mention, if you have it set to transmit on whatever frequency you're on, somebody's going to hear that alarm and come find you. So, which is more likely to work in that scenario? The phone, to get a hold of somebody for help and you're trapped halfway under something, or your radio, especially if you can't talk. Your radio will help you out. So, you have to think about what's practical. Also, be aware of what you're wearing. This is another thing that I really should talk about. We all pick our clothes based upon what we want to wear, what's comfortable, etc. But we often don't on what's efficient, okay? So if it's on a normal day, I have on a shirt, usually a tie, maybe not a tie, but, I have on a shirt, vest, pants. I usually like to wear a pair of slacks. But if it's storming, I prefer tactical pants. And why tactical pants? Because there's more pockets to put things in. Because you don't know what's going to happen when the storm arrives, so you want to be prepared. So you want to have, you want to be able to have everything you need either on your belt or in your pockets. That way, all you'd have to do is then grab a bag if necessary and go, but you have everything right where you can get to it. And that's one advantage that you really want to look at. I know it sounds like a weird advantage, but it really is. It's a helpful thing. I seldom carry anything in my pockets unless it's stormy. I may have a radio on my belt at all times or have one, in my pocket or whatever, but I don't usually have a lot of things in my pockets, other stuff. I don't walk around with a phone in my pocket, that's for sure. So, it's you got to be prepared. So plan accordingly. That's one of those things, just plan ahead. You plan accordingly to what you want to do. That's one of the things I think about is always how to plan ahead and be prepared. You want to have your radio set up to what you need for an emergency. But that's one of those many things. And if you're not going to be around, if people aren't going to be around and be around, in the event of a storm, make sure they have a radio with them as well. Especially if you've got family or whatever, they're going to be doing whatever, be out doing their jobs or whatever. Make sure they have the radio with them and that it's charged, because you don't know what's going to happen. You really don't. So those are little things to take into consideration. A lot of people don't think about these things. They don't plan ahead. And that's one thing that I think is a problem. I think that people should take more time to plan ahead on things. I really do. Okay. I just want to look here real quick. Okay. Okay. Just checking something here real fast. I don't see anything. Okay. Anyway, you always want to be prepared. I think that's a big motto right there, is just being prepared for anything. Always be prepared, because you never know. And maybe, you're not involved in a storm, but maybe there's a power outage for another reason. Be prepared for that. Or maybe, it wasn't a storm. It was a zombie uprising. You got to be prepared for that. Alien invasions, zombie uprisings. You never know what's going to happen. That's the point there, is be prepared. So I thought we'd talk a little about the storm readiness and stuff. My thoughts on it, and if you have ideas or you have a question or want my opinion on part of it, you know what to do. There's a box for that. Of course, like I said, this Baofeng is a good little radio if you want to have if you're just going to need a waterproof one. And they're relatively cheap. I think this is like $30 now, but I think that's about what I paid for it. But it's a good little radio, and you can program it in with whatever you need. And it's a good feel, good size. So, overall it works. It does the job that you want it to do, basically. It's got all the basic functions of every other radio in there is, so not much really to go on with that. Of course, I don't know what I've got every button programmed to do, but I know that for this one, I really just have it set up to, scan the frequencies I need. I've got a set of frequencies here in it. I've got certain channels. I know what they are just by memory, so I can punch them in if I want the weather. I think it's 120, 121, something like that. If I want emergency services, it's 96 on here. I have a memory for what I want to do, whatever the issue is, So it's all set up that way. And it's a simple thing to do. Get you a little radio, get a good radio, a little waterproof radio, at least, that you can have for emergencies like that, just in case you're caught in a storm. Now not everybody, of course, wants a wants to have a radio. Oh, well, I don't want 50 radios. I don't want one dedicated for every other thing. That's true. That would be a headache to have multiple radios dedicated to everything. But I have several radios that I do use for different things. And the reason is because there's more than one frequency I might want to listen to at any time. Now, granted, on a radio like this, you can listen to two. But that's the limit, two, on most radios. So if you can only listen to two frequencies at once, you might want another radio. And I have, I have radios that I'll use to listen to regular radio with. When the last power outage happened, it was scheduled, so I used my radio to listen to a local radio station, so I could have news and a little bit of music, entertainment while I was waiting. I didn't have anything else to do. I've got radios that that scan all different frequencies, and I'll use them for frequency scans or whatever. And I've got something that I just put on different channels. It depends. There's different emergency bands that I want, frequencies I want to listen to. So, boom, got to listen to them. So, in the event of an emergency, I'll have one radio on the weather, so it takes out one from the mix right there, and maybe one on a regular radio station. So there's another one that's going to be running, and then there'll be at least two for emergency services on different frequencies. So you got to have a few radios, but all in all, you really don't need that many. I mean, as long as you have one or two, you're still good. As long as you have one, you're really good if it's waterproof. If you're talking about storms. If you want talking about running from zombies, you want something that's really waterproof and rugged. Now, something like this would work for that, I suppose, but I've never run from a zombie, so I don't know. But, hey, you never know. May have to run from a zombie someday. All right. A little bit of a radio chat tonight. If y'all have questions about this radio or, anything you want to mention in storm preparedness on that category, put it in the chat. We'll have more streams like this coming up in the future. Tomorrow, we've got a new radio we're going to be talking about. I don't have all the answers on it yet, but I'm still messing with it. But you know what? We learn as we go, right? So tomorrow, we've got a new radio chat coming up. I'm not telling you what it is. You got to tune in to find out what radio tomorrow is. But today was the GT3WP. You never know what'll be next on the channel. So we got a few more radio things we're going to talk about, different types. Tomorrow's a new one, so we're going to look at it. And then we've got some more radios we're going to talk about too. So you never know which radio we'll talk about on any given day, or what topic related to all this we'll talk about. But we'll talk about something, right? All right, people, y'all go out there and have a good evening.